So let's dive into DISC. We're going to cover these 4 profiles, and as we cover each one of them, we're going to make sure you have some personality characteristics to help you identify each DISC profile in everyday life. And then we're going to go a little bit more behind the scenes, and we're going to make sure you understand what each one of these profiles values in interaction. What is the number one thing they need to get out of interactions? On the flip side, we're going to make you aware of what they really struggle with in interaction. What do they really burn out on when interacting with people? What do they struggle with in interaction? We're also going to give you a few quick communication tips for communicating with each one of these. And again, the goal here is if you can clearly define each of the 4 DISC results and tell the difference, when you're out in the real world, within 5 minutes max of meeting someone, you should be able to say, oh, got it, they're this DISC type. I know how to adapt my communication style, my delivery, to get through to them and make sure we work together effectively based on how they're wired. So let's get started. First DISC profile. That person who walks into the elevator and asserts themselves right next to the control panel and takes charge. We're talking the high D. What does D stand for? D stands for dominant or dominance. These are very, very strong-willed people. What other characteristics do we need to be aware of to help pick out a D from the lineup of life? So we already know dominant. They're going to be taking charge. They're going to come off as blunt, aggressive, strong-willed. They're going to want to be in charge. They could act impatient, restless. They like to be on the go, working towards what they want for themselves. They're going to be competitive. And did I mention confident? As I'm describing some of these characteristics, I hope you're pausing right now and you're thinking of someone in your real life that's starting to maybe come to the forefront of your mind. Maybe a family member, a friend, a current or past coworker, someone that would be a great example of a high D. Try and bring real life examples from your life into this, because it really helps you get an idea of, oh, that's what a D looks and sounds like. So we've covered some characteristics of a D. What does a D value in interaction? What is the top thing they need when they're interacting with someone? Well, a high D, more than anything, wants to be winning. They want to feel like they have won, that they got their way. That is one of the most important things to them in interactions. They also value, again, taking action versus just talk. They like bottom line results, so don't bore them with all the fluff and in-depth details. Just what's the bottom line? Tell me so we can make decisions fast. And again, they like being in charge. But if there's one thing you got to remember, one thing more than anything that a D values, it's probably winning. They want to feel like they've won. Now let's flip that over and say, what does a D really struggle with in interaction? What's going to burn them out? What's their weakness? Well, they're going to struggle with patience, like I mentioned, slowing down, looking at the details. They're going to struggle with being sensitive, taking other people's emotions into consideration. Again, they are just zoned in on what they want, and it doesn't matter what it takes. They want it their way. A lot of people get rattled by high Ds, and it's nothing personal. They just call it as it is and know what they want, and that can seem rude and condescending to people, but they don't really mean anything by it. It's just how they're wired. So that's probably one of your first communication tips is don't get rattled. Don't take personal offense to them. They don't really mean it. Other communication tips, again, be to the point. Don't bore them with the nitty-gritty, lengthy details. What's the bottom line information that you can convey to them? Focus on solutions. Focus on paths ahead, action steps, versus just the problem and complaints. Be confident. Own it. They will respect you for that. They may challenge you, and if you're confident in your response, there will be nothing but respect. Ds can be so intimidating, but once you understand how they operate, they can be some of the most efficient and quick and easy to work with people in everyday life. There's your high Ds for you. Next video, we're going to tackle high Is.